Right, so welcome everybody to our Inclusive Entrepreneur Friday briefing. It's lovely to have people with us again, actually virtually today, as well as auditory, and also people that will be catching up later. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Jacqueline Winstanley. I'm the founder of Universal Inclusion and the Inclusive Entrepreneur. And also people may not know what the Inclusive Entrepreneur is, so I'll just tell you a little bit about that. Very briefly, it's in essence, it's literally a network supporting people who face barriers when wanting to work with an enterprise, and people that support us to do that. So I'm just going to go through on our first slide the kind of things that we're going to look at today. The phrase carpe diem keeps coming up everywhere. Again, still not sure if it's the correct phrase. But we're going to look at generic business advice for entrepreneurs. We're going to look at specific disability-related support. As always with the Inclusive Entrepreneur, a big part of what we do is not just business strategy, guidance and advice, it's actually health and well-being. How do people manage their health conditions as an entrepreneur? We will again be showcasing an inclusive entrepreneur, and this week we're going to showcase Grant Logan from Ability Today, and then we'll finish with a Q&A for everybody. Okay, so if we'll just move on now. I think this is great as well because, you know, I think I've seen so many people who are getting used to doing this. This move into the home and getting used to this way of working is very interesting. I think everybody's on a huge learning curve, so bear with us. We are small enough to do some brief introductions, and yes, just to remind everybody that it will be recorded. So perhaps Helen, if you could just briefly introduce yourself.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Helen Martin-G, founder of Pink Shoe, and I'm an advisor on entrepreneurship in the House of Lords, as well as being an entrepreneur myself, passionate about inclusivity in all areas of life, and especially around enterprise.
Thank you. Sharon?
Hello, my name's Sharon Farley-Mason and I'm the owner of Glam Sticks, and I bespoke mobility aids for people with disabilities. That's from walking sticks right up to running blades, and I am having to diversify now into other products as well from around the home and what have you.
Thank you, Sharon. Aaron?
Yeah, so I'm Aaron Hornback. I'm the founder and director of Horizon Health Network. So I deal with a holistic approach to health and well-being for all people. So looking at how your physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and the world that you're in, how that the world impacts you and you impact the world. So looking at how to stay healthy, especially in the area of business and being an entrepreneur, and how to keep yourself fit and well while trying to manage the business life that you have.
Thank you. John, would you like to come in?
Yes, John Cowan. I run a company called Spirit Motorsport, limited company. Now almost trading for 10 years now. We put packages together for racing drivers. Not much racing going on at the moment. Also got another company doing charter private jets. That's also a little bit quiet. So having to rapidly diversify.
I think everybody is in that position at the moment. Very, very challenging times. So we've just had Carol come on board and Noreen, so it's probably a good point if you could, Carol, you arrived in first, if you could just introduce yourself, please.
Yes, okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. So if you're in Media City in November, you won't know who I am, but my name's Caroline Whitehead, co-founder of the Zebra Partnership. We do publishing, events, campaigns, bit of marketing and PR. We are social media experts, I'd say, and we work with quite a few key social media and Google experts on that. I'm also a lecturer of marketing, business and events and event production. I'm a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts and a Global Goodwill Ambassador championing the Sustainable Development Goals, number 5, which is gender equality, number 10, which is improving and reducing inequality, and number 17, which is partnership working, and dipping in the others as well. But that's basically an elevator pitch of me.
Thank you. Noreen?
Hi everyone. Yes, I can. I was just muted so you don't pick up all my background noise. Some of you know me, some of you don't. My name is Noreen Cesario. I'm the founder and principal of Market Accents, which is a thought leadership, strategic marketing and communications agency. I've known Jacqueline for a very, very long time through Pink Shoe. I think Helen is still on the line. She's our founder of this fantastic organization, which has definitely left positive footsteps, and proof of that is both of us on this call today. I'm very heavily involved in gender economic empowerment, both locally, nationally, and internationally through some NGOs I participate in and some of the other work. I'm obviously quite interested in everything that Jacqueline is doing and have been supporting her some of this work, which is great. As I see also Sharon there, the people I know, and Grant. Yeah, we're certainly living in interesting times, and sitting here and hearing through this, I missed the first part. I will have to go back and hear it. It just makes you realize what scope there is to ensure inclusive entrepreneurship still has a very large part to play moving forward, as well as all the other SMEs and MESMEs around, and we have to find a way to pick up everyone.
Definitely, thank you. Loris, I know you're stepping in for Noreen at the moment. Would you just like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everybody. So I'm Loris Pasquarello. I'm a French student in a business school, and I've made my internship with Noreen during 3 months in London, and now I'm forced to come back in France because of the COVID-19, and it's that.
Thank you. Yes, I think the impact of this is just so wide-ranging. Absolutely. Okay, so not surprisingly, one of the biggest things that we are being contacted about at the moment, and our briefings are possibly going to be in the main concentrating on, is the measures that the government is taking in order to try to halt the spread of the coronavirus. And obviously our entrepreneurs are naturally anxious, particularly since we've had the what people will call a lockdown. So what we're going to look at first is the generic business advice and the things that the government has put in place to support people generically. So you may or may not have seen some of the things that they put in place around business rates. So as it stands, people will not be paying business rates for this next year. There is a slide which has got a number of links for everybody, which will take you through to the more detailed aspects of this. So we might touch on it briefly, but please do click on those slides in your own time. And it's very up-to-date information with the phone numbers or exactly how you need to apply for things. The government have also given a 3-month extension to people who wanted to submit their end-of-year accounts. Also for people that are employing people or for business owners themselves, the government has said they can automatically receive statutory sick pay. I think what everybody is saying, this is so complex and there's not a one-size-fits-all. And I think what I'm pleased to see, although nobody's going to say it's right yet, but what government are absolutely doing is, in perhaps again in an unprecedented way, is putting things in place as quickly as they can and as comprehensively as they can. And there are some difficulties, and we'll see that on the next slide when we come to disability specific support that's being put into place. The government has introduced, I think it was yesterday, the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme, which again, it is unprecedented. And if you fall into the category that they have chosen to support in that way, and can show that you have 3 years, possibly 1 to 2 years accounts, and can actually evidence a profit, the support through that again is quite comprehensive. And if you click on that, you'll see what that is processed to be at the moment. And yesterday it was talking about being managed through the HMRC to actually take, I think they're going to contact people directly actually, which is unusual, so that you can apply. The government's also put in place business loans. Again, the feedback from this is mixed. It looks like some banks are really embracing this. Some people are saying they've gone to the bank and they're actually wanting not the 0%, etc. They're wanting a significant interest rate, or in some cases wanting people to actually use their home as a guarantor for the loans. So again, sometimes, you know, the government, the intent is there, it's the actual administration of it. And I think it's difficult for everybody. So I'm guessing, as we've seen, these things could continue to change. The one that people are most interested in, but also most struggling to access because of the sheer numbers of people, is the cash grant, which is around business disturbance. So again, please keep looking at that. You know, you may try to access it and be told that you are whatever number in the queue, etc. But I'm sure it will get better as time goes on. Most people are going towards the cash grants and not the loans. People are telling me that in the main, that's because what is the economy going to look like at the end of this? And do they actually want to have a loan at the end of this? The other thing that we've seen, which is generic, and the Bank of England, the interest rate cuts, which again, you know, we've seen people, that there's been mortgage breaks, etc. Apparently at the moment, it's the cheapest time you could possibly get a mortgage. So there's a lot going on to support people. I think it's just a case of some of it's settling in. Some of it is that the fit may not be right and what could be done differently. But I think, you know, nobody could say that the government isn't trying to do this. If we move on now to the disability specific measures that the government is putting in place. So again, what are the issues that are people putting forward to us? They're everything that the generic entrepreneur has talked about, and everything that government's put in place for a generic entrepreneur may help the disabled entrepreneur. However, there are some specific issues. First of all, there is the constant issue about access to work. Now, those of you that were on the briefing last week, you will be aware that we had, through numerous avenues, contacted government, local councils, etc., to get an answer on this, and we still haven't had an official answer. However, what we have seen is that when individuals are contacting Access to Work, they are being met with a positive response. And though we have not had an official response, people are being told by advisors that the support workers will continue to be paid, that they actually recognise this is unprecedented and people are going to be working from home. However, that's not the official line, and we are still waiting for that. But it's pleasing that if people are phoning them, they are starting to get a positive response, because that was the overriding thing, that people were not only concerned about losing the business, but also losing the support, which would be very, very difficult to get back. We've asked government to consider putting some measures in place around Access to Work. 4 very simple things. Please, to actually temporarily suspend the cap, so that people that may need to work from home in a different way can have an assessment at home. They may have to take a different pay rate for their staff. They may have to get cover for staff that are self-isolating. If they are near the cap, they won't be able to do that. So to temporarily suspend the cap. To then look at the annual turnover criteria. At the moment, the government measure your ability to keep receiving the award by your turnover. Who knows what this is going to do? If this is done for the generic business population, what is it going to do for the disabled entrepreneur? So again, we feel that the government, it would be very helpful if they could suspend the turnover criteria for perhaps 2 years or something, just to give people a breathing space. When people are actually looking at access to the mental health strand of the award, that is done quickly, because that's massive at the moment. We have people who are generally quite isolated, but even more so now. And the 4th thing is actually to consider if people who are wanting to, ironically in all of this, wanting to start a new business, that they are supported effectively to do so. What we are seeing in all of this is people are adapting. People are looking at new ways of doing things. There are people starting new business on the back of the difficulties other people are facing. And that's not people that are profiteering. It's as people are starting to work from home, they're needing different things. So there is a business growing at the same time of this. So it's quite interesting. So we want to make sure that anybody is not automatically told we're not taking applications at the moment. Okay, we'll come back to this at the end if anybody has anything else they want to add to this. Way forward. It's just as we said last week, it's having a voice, being as loud as we can about this. Interestingly, we've had some movement in terms of the social media that we put out there. Nikki Fox from the BBC is following what we're doing. Tanya Gray Thompson, Baroness Jane Campbell is following what we're doing. Some of the other charities are following what we're doing and echoing what we're saying. There was a big push in terms of the emergency measures that were being taken and the impacts on social care. And I think, you know, almost like getting involved in that has been very helpful for what we're trying to do. So it is moving, but we do still need to keep it vibrant and getting to the right places. But we're starting to do that. We're not yet getting in to speak to the Chancellor, the Prime Minister. That's not going to happen at the moment. But we're doing what we can, and very definitely what we're creating is a roar, and people are responding to it. Okay, if we move on to the next issue. So as well as government putting things in place, there are some very clear and very up-to-date links that you can go on, which will literally cover everything that they're doing and more. So, you know, the health and well-being side of this, the actual medical side of this, and the measures that they're putting in place to try to help people. That includes people, and there will be some people in our network, and I know there is one who's actually been put on a 12-week process. So those of you that do know Patrick's actually been put on a 12-week stay-at-home program, and he sent a little clip actually that we're going to put on the Inclusive Entrepreneur LinkedIn group for people to see. It's a bit more personal, so I'm not going to show that on this briefing, but it's quite interesting to see how that's been responded to, and it'll be interesting to see from his perspective how that works out. So we will, anything that comes out, we will add to our briefing, we will add to the website and the LinkedIn group and the WhatsApp group, to keep everybody as up to date as possible. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next issue, please. So at this point, I would like to introduce and hand over to Aaron, really, because a big part of what we do is, as I said earlier, and probably more so than ever, is to look at the health and well-being side. So again, if I'd like to introduce Aaron to have his perspective on this and talk a little bit about how he might input into and support the network going forward.
Hi, everybody. So yes, you know, health and well-being in this area is so big, especially right now with everyone now having to work at home, figuring out finance, entrepreneurs, and trying to, you know, find their way through all that the government is saying and the support that's there, and figuring out how to get that support. It is something that can weigh on you in your mind. It can cause some despair to sink in. You can feel a bit of depression despite everything else that's going on, and also that feeling of a bit of isolation right now, because we're all, you know, homebound. Majority of us now are homebound for safety purposes, obviously, but that lack of being able to connect, which this is a great platform, you know, for us to be able to meet this afternoon. So it's looking at and addressing, you know, how do we, in the situation that we're in, stay well. And you know, for myself, you know, there are different things I do. You know, I help people in all different aspects. I mean, I've got a client, for example, who is wheelchair bound at the moment due to a fall that she had, and she's so going in and working with her to find physical strength, but also making that contact because she is homebound in a wheelchair, going in and just saying, how are you? How are things going? Giving you that opportunity to open up and speak and maybe share some of the challenges that you're facing. What I have found in what I'm doing for people is that just having that open ear to listen is so vital. And being able to say, well, you know, for example, in what we're doing through universal inclusion is I could say, well, you know, if there's an issue with legislation, I know somebody you can speak to and be a connecting person to that issue. So for Horizon Health and what we look to do is to be that support, be it for you know, just fitness and being physically well, and how do you negotiate that with regards to accessibility, and then looking at your mental and emotional health and well-being, because that does have an impact on your physical well-being. And then the world that you're in, what are your relationships like? What's your business relationships like? Are you getting the best information available to you and the right connections to help you through that process? So for ourselves, that's what we're looking to do, is to come alongside and help people, because a lot of times it's just having somebody to say, I hear what you're saying, and let's see what we can do together to get you over that hurdle in your health.
Brilliant, thank you. I mean, I certainly found the people in our network that I'm speaking to so far, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, it has hit some people really hard.
Yes.
And because the thing is, it was tough before this. You know, this is a community that has difficulties in this area, so it was tough before, and it has hit some people really hard. So thank you so much for coming on board, because that's an invaluable part of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no,
okay, thank you. And by probably midweek, we'll have something up on the website around more officially in terms of what Aaron will be doing and how people can access that. Thank you very much. Obviously, alongside the health and wellbeing work that we'll be doing with Aaron, we've also partnered with a yoga teacher who's a wonderful lady, and she's been brave enough to start working with us at putting together some yoga, meditation, well-being things, particularly yoga for people who are in wheelchairs or don't have a lot of mobility. So again, there's a link there to some of the things that she does, but she's specifically putting these other things together for us. Ironically as well, it was, I think it was this morning, Tanny Gray Thompson and Kelly Holmes were asking, was there anything out there around this kind of thing? So hopefully when she's put that together, we'll send it to them. But yeah, absolutely. So, you know, just from my own perspective as well, I found that really invaluable, because I do go very stir crazy when I'm at home, and everything else that's going on is a little bit surreal and difficult to understand. So I'm hoping that's going to be quite an invaluable part of that, of working alongside Aaron. And I think that's going to be a really good partnership, I hope, going forward. So please have a look at what she does so far. And I think, again, probably midweek, we'll have something up on the website and in the group that's more specific to our actual network. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so as we said, we're going to showcase one of our inclusive entrepreneurs each week. And the point of this is literally, we want to keep the marketplace alive. We want people to still feel that they can grow their business and get out to the people that at the minute may just not be even thinking about this. Certainly from a lot of the people in the network that I've been speaking to, we're starting to feel that this was it was over. So I'm hoping that having this included in our weekly briefing is the positive bit about this, and actually showing people what people are doing, how they're adapting, and hopefully how they're going to move forward. So this week we're going to introduce you to the work of an entrepreneur who unfortunately can't be with us today, because he's actually working on some other stuff he needs to do, which is good, it's all good. But he has sent us a film to play.
Welcome to Ability Today. That's right, we've dropped the diss, as it's now time to start talking about what we can do and not what we can't. My life changed forever in 2003 when I had a road accident and woke up in hospital 2 days later to find out that I was paralysed, I'd broken my back and I'd never walk again. While I was there, I clearly remember a nurse coming into my room and telling me that one day I would realise that I was one of the lucky ones. At the time, I had no idea what she meant, but it didn't take me long. And now I want to help my community explore the same opportunities that I've had. Meet Khalil. Hi. Today, Khalil's editing listings, checking for broken links, and fixing any mistakes on the website. And this is Steph.
Hi.
Steph's going through disability magazines, making sure that all the organisations in these magazines are added to our website as a free listing. So what is Ability Today? It's a knowledge hub, a place for the disabled to find out about news, product, services and organisations supporting the wider world. We want to help people live better, connected lives because knowledge is power. Your donations help us provide opportunities and adventures, raising self-belief, building confidence and creating great role models. But we need your support to continue pushing the boundaries. Here's roving reporter Steph, skydiving, water skiing and gliding. Here's Heather, out and about showing us how she drives her car. Heather now shares her time between Ability Today and her new job, which is just amazing. Khalil's been out on a mission travelling the tubes and buses in London reporting on accessibility, and he's just returned from filming at the London Dungeons. And I am so proud to announce that Olivia Gallagher, 2018's Young Sports Personality of the Year, has become our first ambassador and patron. Olivia even volunteers for us in between her training. We now have an advisory board in place, and we've even won an award for innovation. But there's still so much more to do. We are just at the start. So how can you help us? We're raising funds to achieve 3 things. To accelerate our volunteer programme and provide more opportunities. To launch our academy for disabled journalists. And provide the workstations, the studio equipment, the tools and the skills for the disabled to go out and report on the world around them. So our target is £20,000, a massive amount, I know. But if we doubled that or even tripled that, the amount of people that we could reach. Click the donate button today. Please help us achieve our goals by donating to this worthwhile cause, and your efforts really will make a difference.
Grant is one of our earliest inclusive entrepreneurs. He's probably been with us about 5 years now. So Grant, had a fabulous lifestyle. He was a band manager and sadly had a motorbike accident and his life changed forever. But he wanted to give back. And I've worked with Grant for a long time as a mentor, and his tenacity on this has just been incredible. So he started initially with the digital platform, which was basically trying to get people from all over the world to send him information that he could share with the disabled community about every aspect of their life. But it became very clear as he started to do this, what he needed was actually to have volunteers to come and join him, initially to work around the digital platform. But it was clear that really there was more that he could do for the volunteers. And that's really where this roving reporter came from. And then hopefully next time Grant comes on, he'll be able to tell you a little bit more about the Disabled Journalist Academy that's going to be run at Ability Today. So it's a phenomenal CIC. And I mean, I love being involved in it. I chair their advisory board, and it's just such an uplifting organisation to be involved in. And I've seen the volunteers arrive, as you can imagine, perhaps, you know, maybe being sent from the job centre, etc. And you know, sometimes not very confident, not feeling great about themselves. But to move on to be doing the kind of things that they're doing, it's a phenomenal thing that he does. So sometimes difficult to follow that video, because I think it's just it's awe-inspiring things that they do at Ability Today. However, just to reinforce what the inclusive entrepreneur is all about. So obviously a big focus of this has been around the impact of the coronavirus and the measures that are being put into place. But I want us to refocus for a little moment on why we're doing what we're doing. So we've talked about the fact that we are an organisation that supports people who they face barriers to working in enterprise, to having a business, to buying a business, to maintain a business and grow a business. And that's what we're trying to help people to do. We support people right across the spectrum of what people are calling the protected characteristics. And what we're trying to do is, as we build this, evidence sustainable development goals. So it might seem at the moment that we're just focusing solely on the coronavirus, but that isn't all that we do. It's just at the minute, that is what's in everybody's space. It's critical at the moment, and it's critical that we try to guide people through it and support them through it. Okay, so we're coming to the part of the briefing now where it's a Q&A session. So it's very much over to you to think if there's anything that you've heard today you'd like to ask questions about, or if there's anything you'd like to raise at the moment. We would ask that we're not party political, that you keep it clean. But if there's anything you want to talk to us about today around entrepreneurship and your role in it, how you're feeling at the moment, and anything we can do to help. Thank you. Maybe if I bring people in the order that I can see them on the screen.
That sounds good.
Yes, Aaron, have you got any questions, please?
I don't actually at the moment myself. I think I've got a pretty good handle on what is being discussed, but I'm intrigued with what other people may be having to ask.
Okay, can I just say at this point as well, can I apologise if I have to keep drinking? As you've gathered, excuse me, my condition affects my voice. So I do apologise. I know it's perhaps not professional to keep drinking like that, but I will need to do that sometimes. So John, is there anything you particularly want to raise today?
Well, I was going to sort of more pick up on some points that I've been in an earlier. I go along to a round table meeting, which is a lunch club of business gents. And one of the things, we had our own virtual meeting today as we can't meet up physically. One of the big issues that came up was cash flow. And one of the suggestions that was mooted, and I'm not sort of suggesting this, is maybe carefully looking at your direct debits, cancelling some of those. One of the things that came up was particularly car finance, because there's a bit of leeway on car finance. And I know one guy said, oh, I'm going to cancel my car finance payments, preserve the cash in the business for the short term. So that's something just to think about, really.
That's a really good idea, actually. Because what I'm hoping to do next week is have somebody online who's going to be talking about occupational health and actually working from home ergonomically. But I think that's a really good point, that it's possibly that we could bring somebody in who's maybe, since last week I actually joined FSB, so maybe somebody from FSB who's got that sort of background, or if not a financial advisor, etc., that might be useful for people at this time. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
So I'm going to cut in. If there's financial advisor you can bring on, because a lot of the issues, unfortunately, even with the package that was announced yesterday, too many are falling in between the cracks. And I must say, I consider myself to be fairly savvy at deciphering what the government wants to do. But I've sat down, read through it, and went like, well, I guess I'm not sure. I fall in, I don't fall in, I tried that, that's not an open route. So it's a minefield out there, and I've been reading a lot of comments, even on other blogs, about people saying, oh, I thought I did qualify, then I went through it, I sat down with an advisor, I can't get universal credit, I don't qualify for this, I'm falling through. So I think that would be helpful.
Several tweets in relation to that, several targeted tweets, so key people can see them. So, for example, our Greater Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, know him quite well, supposed to have been meeting him this week, actually, if it wasn't for the lockdown, on several other projects. And he's taken it on board to ensure that we don't fall through the cracks. One of the phrases I use quite a lot, because yes, you have your SMEs, and yes, you have the large organisations, and then they're talking about the self-employed, but there is that 5.6 million of us that actually slip in between, whereby we're micro SMEs, we're not registered as self-employed, and so there's an issue there on that affects our business, affects our cash flow.
No, you're perfectly right, Carol. And actually, I think it's something that we should all be pushing and putting pressure on, really. I mean, I've been putting comments back out even on LinkedIn and Twitter, because I've noticed even pointed comments towards FSB that, you know, you've covered a lot of sectors, but you've lived a certain demographic slightly loose, and it isn't very well defined. And I'm expecting better definition to come through from the powers that be, because they have not yet covered everybody.
Yeah.
And
can I come in on that, please? Because one thing that came out very strongly yesterday is that for a disabled entrepreneur particularly, who has maybe a condition that fluctuates, may have a turnover over the 3-year period that's fluctuated.
Yeah.
Equally, they may have gaps where they are sometimes well enough to work, others they actually step out from their business. So I do feel they need to look at this quite succinctly in terms of people who have protected characteristics, and particularly disabled entrepreneurs. Because at the moment, actually saying 3 years accounts and profit is likely to wipe some of these disabled entrepreneurs out of that equation. And that doesn't mean that their business is any less valid than anybody else's. It's just the nature of the way that they work. So I think there's more conversations around that, and it's great that Andy Burnham did pick that up. So thank you for doing that, Carol. I really appreciate that. Yeah. And it's just trying to, you know, as I was saying earlier when we were discussing this, to make this roar loud enough so that somebody does hear that. Because I actually think they're very open to this. They just don't necessarily know how to do it. Okay, thank you.
I think one of the concerns on this, I know for myself, I don't qualify for the support. You know, thankfully, my wife, being an NHS nurse, you know, will be okay. Though that still doesn't help in the situation for us and for myself. But my point is this: there will be a lot of people, as discussed earlier, that are already feeling isolated. You know, entrepreneurs going, "What do I do now?" As you've said, those who have the disability and not knowing what to do next, and they don't have a platform like this to say, actually, I'm not the only one who's worrying. I'm not the only one struggling. And to me, what's really highlighted for everyone who has been used to business as usual, but how much more for those who have a disability and are feeling very isolated at the moment. It's the mental anguish now that comes into play. It's the emotional anguish. And for me personally, I was talking with a friend of mine last night over the phone about just watching people's the way their minds work, where there might be an increased desire of suicide because they think, my life's over, what can I do? And what choice do I make? Because if I take a loan and then I can't pay the loan, what am I going to do? So all these things on a health point of view, decisions that we have to make right now, I think the government and regular society, we're all going, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And it's very difficult to make an exact decision right now, because you have to really take a good scope of things and say, okay, well, I don't qualify for that. What can I qualify for?
Yes.
So it's very important to just keep in mind for those that you may be in contact with, and those who may be joining in or watching after this is recorded, to know that you're not alone. You know, community out there, and there's support there. And
absolutely.
Sorry, can I just butt in? Maybe we could the Universal Inclusion Network, and I'm just only recently come in as a guest, could be expanded a little bit more to draw more people in.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's what we're hoping will happen, and we're certainly happy to do that. But just going back on the again, it's a good example of, so government intent in terms of people going on ESA, etc. The conflict in that is that most disabled people who are entrepreneurs have an access to work award. If we actually change our status from being self-employed to not able to work, that automatically kicks us out of that system. So that, again, there are some measures that they really need to look at quite urgently, because people are, you know, what do they do? Because in order, the government's kind of like put something that can help them on the one hand, but on the other, it could take everything else away.
Yes.
So it's those kind of things that need ironing out. So I think on our next week's briefing, I think we'll concentrate more specifically on that, and some of the ergonomics and the finance.
Yeah, I think that would be best.
It's getting out there to everybody that we do exist as well, that we are here to help people. So if anybody's got any other thoughts about that would be great. Noreen, I know you've spoken a little bit, but do you have anything else to add?
No, I've given you my 2 pennies worth.
Okay, Sharon?
You've kind of covered what I was going to say about the government, that on one hand they're giving it to you, but the generalising on people rather than looking at, I know it's a mad crazy world at the moment, and you know they have to generalise before they then screen down and look at different issues and what have you, but it's all going to take time. Yes, I've had, you know, I was worrying about you've got to have your books in by 19, and I was worrying, is that 1819 or 1920, until I heard the guy who does all the finance stuff on the TV, I can't remember his name.
Is it Martin Lewis? Yeah, Martin Lewis. Maybe.
Martin Lewis, yeah. And he said it was 1819. So, yeah, I've been in profit for the past 3 years, but I've never hit the tax bracket. So am I still going to get something in June or not? You know, that was one thing. Another thing is, that you brought up the WhatsApp group. Has that started yet?
I don't think that's actually been formalised yet, because I know that's really important. You know, as soon as that's on board, we'll let you know.
Okay, that's great, because at the moment I'm bombarding you with loads of.
I know, and that's fine. That's fine. And the WhatsApp group really is to give people an opportunity to have a little bit more of a confidential conversation and be a little bit more open than perhaps we're allowed to be on here, really. The communications we had with our MP and with other members, constituency MPs, has been very much, you know, we're putting forward solutions. We're not saying, you know, we're not bashing anybody over the head at the moment. It's literally, please listen to us, because actually we've got some really good solutions of how we could help you to make this work. It's just getting this information in the right arena.
That's right, you know, and it's a shame when these guys are not answering us back. And I know they've got a lot to deal with, but, you know, excuse me, it's common courtesy that, you know, just a couple of lines, oh, I'm really sorry at the moment, blah, 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 what have you. So another thing you brought up, Jacqueline, was looking at cash grants.
Yes.
Are these for the like us smaller businesses?
These are what they've put into place. My understanding is these are business interruption grants. So these are people where they, at the point that they said, we need you to close, or we now want you to stay at home, if that affected your business, that is the grant that you can apply for. And it's for things, I understand, like paying rent, if you've got maybe wages to pay, so something that's actually because of the business interruption. But again, it seems to be changing all the time, so do keep looking at those updates, and because the questions we're asking, any entrepreneur is asking at the moment, because it's there, but it's still a little bit unclear. It really is. So, and I think each day it will become clearer, and hopefully at some point. But again, you know, some people might say it's fantastic what they've put in place for the generic entrepreneur. It's going to take till June to do that.
That's right. And a lot of businesses have gone out of business because it's going to take till June.
Yeah, or they've laid staff off, etc. And equally, as we've seen, because people have thought the only option was universal credit, that swamped the welfare system around that. So, you know, there's a lot of chaos, and I think within that chaos, all we can do is just keep trying to have our voices heard, really.
I mean, it's a shame that one of my support workers has had to go off for 12 weeks, and she is having to go for ESA now. And she said it's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. There are thousands of people.
And these are the questions really that we ought to be getting back in terms of access to work, because we did ask them, if you have to bring somebody else in because your support worker is self-isolating, will they honour that grant to that person? Because that would solve all of that.
Yeah.
But we just haven't got those answers yet. And, you know, we're pushing. Like I said earlier again, we've got people looking at what we're doing. Nikki Fox is looking at what we're doing. And it's just trying to get somebody's attention, really, to sort of pick it up and run with it for us.
Yeah.
But, you know, and I know everybody's trying so hard. I know you can't do more than you're doing. So it's not a criticism at all in terms of where we are. It's just, you know, sometimes from the strangest of places it might come. You know, like the way Carol did some of the tweets the other day, and it just happened to grab Andy Burnham's attention or somebody's attention. And if they've got the capacity at the time to run with it, that's great. I know that because, again, as I was saying earlier, Baroness Thompson and Campbell, with what they're doing at the moment, it's very relevant for them. And if we can just get somebody who has that voice to take on board what we're saying as well, it doesn't have to be us that necessarily delivers it. Anybody can say it. It's just that it needs saying.
Can I just jump in there? I can't remember his name. Sorry. He said something about widening the network.
John. Oh, John. It was John.
Yeah, John. Yeah, so John said, and quite rightly said, you know, about widening the network, because as my mother used to say, that's a good way of spreading the gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that we need to unify. You call it a Friday briefing, which is nice, but it sounds quite governmental.
Right. Okay.
And that might be like, oh, I don't want to go on that. That sounds a bit boring, which is not. That's not what it is.
No, like a huddle or something, or should it be a different name? Or
no, not like that, because that's trying too hard. What it is, it's, you know, not put away your black brand, but, you know, hashtag inclusive entrepreneur online.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. Yeah.
You know, you remember what I said to you about the seeds? Putting those seeds out.
Yeah.
Right. So it's every Friday. So as soon as this is finished, you know, hashtag inclusive entrepreneur online, bit of a summary of what's gone on, you know, with a nice image. Always put an image in there. And see people that you want to hook in. Continue the thread where Andy Burnham's in there, the Lord Mayor of Liverpool, who is quite influential at the moment, and the first black mayor. So, you know, that she champions people with disability, ethnicity, religion, and so on. The protected characteristics, basically, she's known for championing that. Those kind of people that we know what their portfolio is. They don't have to be Northwest, because this is a national campaign. So if there's somebody in our broth that is really hot on this, get hold of them, get them tagged in. You know, and sow those seeds. But yes, get the inclusive entrepreneur online, what it means, what the definition of it means, and get it out there and get the gospel spread, and then it'll start to snowball. Are you laughing at me, Sharon?
Because I think you're just blooming awesome.
Because I'll stand up and say hallelujah, and then Aaron will stand up and start singing.
Also, if this butting again. Also, if this Zoom call could be made shareable at all, so we can get it out on our own networks, our own LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah. So what we do, the briefing, which is now going to be Inclusive Entrepreneur Online, is for anybody to share anywhere. There is a member element to what we do, but that's not the time. This isn't the time to be looking at it in that way. This is the time just to get it out there and build the numbers and share the message, really. So yeah, absolutely. So you'll get the link and you can just share it widely.
We'll certainly do that, Jacqueline.
Thank you. Okay, so any other questions before we call it a day for today?
No, I've just been tweeting while we've been talking.
What a surprise.
Well, that's great. That's
relevant tweets. So key things like the cash flow, key things like protected characteristics, those kind of things that will get people's attention.
Yes, yeah. Perfect.
One last thing. Right, what is trending at the moment? I know the answer, I'm just asking you. What is trending on Twitter at the moment?
I would have said the NHS applaud, but that's just gone. So,
well, no, but the NHS is always trending now because it's flavour of the month, and I'm not saying that in a horrible way.
No.
You know, but it is flavour of the month. But what is trending is
homeworking or
no, got coronavirus.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah. Who's got it?
Boris Johnson.
Exactly.
He has. Yeah.
Who else has got it?
Prince Charles.
Prince Charles.
And the health secretary.
The health secretary.
Has he really?
Yeah.
Secretary.
Right. I missed that one.
So a nice curve around. You know, all these key people. I say key people. You know, best wishes and get well soon. PM, health secretary. You know, a little taster of what it's like.
Yeah.
And then you fold in and you get the sucker punch in a nice way.
Yeah. Okay.
You clever tweet it round.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And again, thank you everybody for supporting what we're doing, and it's great. Please do visit the Inclusive Entrepreneur page on Universal Inclusion's LinkedIn page. And as soon as the WhatsApp group is up and running, we'll let you know as well. But thank you so much, everyone, and stay safe and well.
And are we back here next week?
We are. We're going to do every Friday at this time.
Okay.
I think it's good. It's good. It's all good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye.
All right. Stay safe and have a lovely weekend.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.